Hey everybody, Josh the RV Nerd here at Xlite RV of Coldwater, Michigan with another comparison video for you today. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Xlite Wildwood versus what you might call like a full Wildwood. Or, I don't know, call them Little Wood, Big Wood. Nope, that didn't come out right. Anyway, I want to kind of go through and show you how really they're more the same camper than they are different, which of course makes a little bit of sense since they're in the same family, but when you see it, like, you can tell they're physically a different size. They have a different name badge on them. Like, usually that denotes some pretty significant variances. In this case though, they're like 95% the same or more. Really, the only significant massive difference between the two is that they use two different slide systems. But that will have a cascade effect on what shapes the two members of the Wildwood family. So I'm going to begin by kind of establishing how they're the same camper, then looking at what they do differently, and then finally looking at a couple things that big Wildwood does that little Xlite just flat out doesn't do. Along the way, if you see something you like, leave us a comment. If I miss anything, because I ain't perfect, my wife will confirm that for you, then leave us a little comment. Short of that, hit subscribe, follow along. We always have more of these videos coming out. Let's get started. So like I said, some baseline establishing here where they're the same. They've got the same cabinetry, the same refrigerator, the same kitchen countertops, with the same sink and sprayer faucet. They both have like the same centralized air conditioning system. And now, this is a neat thing. The both Wildwoods have the full Versa Lounge here, which previously was found only in the Big Brother Wildwood. It was not available in Xlite. It is now standard in both. You will see a couple minor differences. We'll get into those. Like if you look at the slide out here, this is a flush floor slide. You can see it does have carpeting in the slide out. So I just flipped the script. We just jumped from a full Wildwood to an Xlite. Can't really tell, can you? Like I said, a lot of same stuff. Kind of same countertop, same kitchen. They now both have the same Versa Lounge, which again, I think is very cool. If you're noticing it again though, I did mention in the Xlite you have a different type of slide out. You step up into the slide out, but it is carpetless. That is due to the difference in the slide systems that they both use, and we will expand on that as we go a little further. They even go so far as to effectively have the same bedroom equipment. You still have the CPAP side stands. You still have household and USB outlets on both sides of the bed. You still have the blackout night shades through the whole RV. They're very consistent from the two. So the question naturally becomes, why then, when I go from an Xlite to a Wildwood, am I gaining about $1,500 roughly? We're going to get into some of the reasons why. There's a few things here. And the way that I came up with that number is I looked at the Xlite 263 BHXL versus the full Wildwood 26 DBUD, DBUD, and that's about the base difference between the two. What you're going to find is there's a couple features difference that generate that money gap between them, but overall, the main difference here is that Xlite is made to be a little more price sensitive and a little less on the weight tag. That tends to mean that an Xlite floor plan starts small and gets mid-size, while a full Wildwood starts mid-size and then can get very large. So like an Xlite by default, some of the smaller ones have no slides whatsoever, like the 171 RBXL, tiny little couples camp and Murphy bed model. And then an Xlite kind of tops out at about a one super slide private rear bedroom model, which happens to be what I'm standing in right now. That's as big as they get, like barely 6,000 pounds. Whereas a full Wildwood starts at about 5,200 pounds. All full Wildwoods have at least one slide, and then they go up as far as to have 3 slides. So what really sets them apart is the slide out system that they're using. On an Xlite, you are on an above floor slide system. It's a Schwintek slide system. The whole slide is mounted above the floor. It slides straight out, straight in. And it's a great, very lightweight slide system. And when the Schwintek slide system gets a really bad rap out there because when it first kind of made its debut, RV builders were using it on Slideouts that it had no business being on, like these giant full wall fifth wheel mega slides. It had no business being there. This is a mostly hollow slide. It's just seating. There's no major heavy construction within it, if you will. It's a perfectly applicable slide system for this type of application. And the fact that we don't seem to be seeing Xlite slide out issues kind of supports that theory. The idea behind it is that it is lighter weight, because that's really the thing with the Xlite. They are trying to be a little more conservative on the weight tag there. The trick is that does mean that it's a step up slide out as opposed to a full Wildwood, which has a floor flush slide, which is what you're seeing behind me back here on a full Wildwood. So you notice you don't see any of the silver worm gears on the side of the slide. Instead, underneath here, there is a rack and pinion, like a ram bar system. It's a heavier weight slide system. It costs a little bit more as well. That really has no bearing on much of anything, just kind of sharing some details. But it is an awesome slide system for bigger, heavier slide outs. But the really big reason, the reason they use it on a full Wildwood, is because it allows for a floor flush slide out. Remember how that Xlite had that step up in the slide out? This is what allows you to get rid of that. It allows the slide to go out and then dip down at the last minute right there. The cool part about that is it means you've got more headroom within the slide box. You don't have that toe kick, you don't have that step up. The catch-22 of it, it's a lot harder to make that carpetless. Unlike the Xlite Wildwood, that step up slide out, you don't have to worry about that so much, because this type of slide system actually kind of grinds a little bit, I guess you'd say, on the main interior camper floor. That's why the carpet's really there, that little lip of carpet in front of it, so that the slide can kind of bump and grind out a little bit. So when it comes to the slide outs, they each do a thing that I like better. I like the floor flush nature of a full Wildwood slide better, but I like the carpetless nature of an Xlite slide out better. I think long term you'll probably see full Wildwood try to adopt carpetless, but it's not as easy as just, well, change the stuff out, just take out the carpet. There's engineering things that go into it. Remember, the floor flush slide outs with a little carpet strip in front of them are literally using that carpet strip to kind of slide on. That would scuff and mar up linoleum. You have to rebuild the slide. You have to completely re-engineer a slide out to just magically make it carpetless. There's a reason only these big, like, high level, like Eagle, North Point, Montana, Pinnacle fifth wheels are doing it with very limited travel trailers. Like Jayco's done some, Freedom Express has done some. It took them a long time to do that. And in this price point, it's hard to accomplish and keep the price in check. So that is what I, again, would call the differences, not necessarily enhancements. What I want to kind of turn the dial a step further now are look at what I call enhancements. Things that you like establish a baseline in Xlite, and then how does a full Wildwood enhance? For instance, the very ceiling height on this. It's one of the weight control measures on an Xlite, that slide system, and the fact that they're using a 6.5 foot tall normal industry standard ceiling height in an Xlite. Those are calling card signature features here. Whereas a full Wildwood, you actually have a 6'9" ceiling. You're gaining 3 extra inches. That means they're adding a little bit of cabinetry throughout the whole thing. That means a little more headroom in the shower. There's a little more space throughout the entire RV, a little bit bigger slide out. That has an effect on the weight and the cost of an RV. So that is part of that roughly $1,500 variance that I mentioned. But again, that's only like when you're looking at equivalent floor plans. I just like to have some kind of number to give you a base established line there. There's one other significant difference between an Xlite and a Wildwood, and that is what they're doing underneath. So if we start with the Xlite and take a look down here, what you're going to see is that an Xlite has no real special belly protection package. However, are you noticing that you do not see exposed plumbing? It's an interesting thing Xlite does. What they actually do, while the tanks may be exposed, the plumbing itself is actually run through and protected within the floor construction itself. So even a base Xlite still has some level of protection about it. By contrast over here, a full Wildwood has what they call their heated and enclosed accessibility. It is all, protected. And Wildwood's actually using a really cool thing here you typically find only among Forest River luxury fifth wheels, and that's those kind of almost like armored belly panels. What's also neat is they are sectionalized. So if you do need to take one down to do some kind of service work underneath, I hope you never need to, but kind of like a spare tire, I'd like you to have that ability if the need ever arises. You can drop one panel down, do work, and then replace it. You're not going to have a big hole in the underbelly where some work had to be done, or just a panel duct taped up back in place. Not to mention the fact that stuff is a lot more like armored and rugged. And that slide out difference is also, like I said, one of those cascading effects that changes some of the other engineering on the Xlite. Saves you a little weight, saves you a little money. Since the slide out is above the floor, it never has to actually go through the frame rail. That lets an Xlite ride typically on something like a 6-inch I-beam chassis, whereas when we step over here to a full Wildwood with that rack and pinion slide out, you'll see the difference in the slide construction, because I know you haven't seen that up close yet with me yakety yak, and I had to go freehand mode here. That's that ram bar I was telling you about, and you see how it actually goes into the slide, or the frame rail itself. Now think about this. If you're going to take a big piece of steel and you're going to cut a hole in it to run that ram bar through there, you're going to cause some structural loss. So they have to go from that 6-inch I-beam to an 8-inch I-beam to compensate for that. Now, when you do that, the whole trailer gets a little taller. That is why an Xlite Wildwood has a 2-step stable step entry, while when we get over here to a full Big Brother Wildwood, you see a 3-step entry. That's another good indication, roughly, of the chassis size difference between RVs when you're shopping around. Now there's a couple other really minor things, like an outside camp kitchen. Those are always optional on an Xlite where they're available. They are standard on a full Wildwood, but that's more of a floor plan variance, I think, versus a brand segment versus segment kind of variance. I guess you can chalk it up however you want. There's the information, do with it what you please. And if you've appreciated this information, please hit that subscribe button, follow along with us. Remember, we'll give you everything that we can, information overload here at Xlite RV of Coldwater, Michigan. And we are family owned and operated. So if you see what you like here, all we ask is you give our team a call, give us the opportunity to work with you. We would love the chance to earn your business. We are a very large dealership in a small town. The kind of town where if you turn left on the main road, you went the wrong way. But we send these RVs from coast to coast. I don't care if you live in New York or LA or anything in between. We make deals happen if you give us the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. So as always, take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy Xlite camping, everyone.